Hey everyone, Danae Bushcutter here with Weld.com. Today I'm going to be welding some 10-inch schedule 80 pipe, and then once I weld it, we're going to do several different NDT tests on it. So I'm going to get my land on here because right now I just have a bevel. And then I'll weld it out and we'll do a mag particle testing on it.
What we're going to do is just a quick demonstration. This is a electromagnetic yoke, and this produces what we call a longitudinal magnetic field. So what you're going to see is two poles. We call these legs. So this is a ferromagnetic plate, so that magnetic field is going to exist very nicely in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to see this kind of pattern start to build. And by doing that, you can actually see that north and south kind of pole. If you think about two magnets and trying to stick them together, like poles don't like each other, opposing poles do. Now, when we do this, we're going to do it in two directions, approximately 90 degrees apart. If you're trying to picture what's going on, our field is creating a loop on either side of this yoke. So just kind of picture a little semicircle. So when we do this, we want to make sure that we turn this and that field is created 90 degrees or perpendicular to each other. By doing that, it ensures that we will be able to find any flaws regardless of the orientation. So that's normal. It's just going to build up where the weld metal meets our parent metal. That's to be expected. All right. Other than the obvious stuff that we already discussed, she looks good. I don't see any sort of cracks or anything to really be concerned about. No laminations in the base metals. So as we fill this thing up, we shouldn't really be getting any surprises.
Alrighty, so I've got Andrew with me here today to explain some of the NDT stuff in the industry and some general questions of NDT. So first off, can you kind of explain what NDT is?
Yeah, so NDT stands for non-destructive testing. As you can see, Ocean Core logo, I'm an instructor, so that has been my life. You really could think of NDT as that. It is a very, very unknown trade, but it's used everywhere, literally everywhere. And in a lot of ways, people probably don't even think about. And so, NDT is broken down into 6 key elements of various methods of inspection. But I mean, really, it is used in every single aspect of just our industrial world.
Now, for someone wanting to get into the industry, how long does schooling usually take?
Well, that's a kind of a complicated question. Now, in the grand scheme of things with NDT, we break ourselves up into levels. So you have a entry level, level 1, level 2, level 3. Entry level, really, you don't need a whole lot. You just need to get in with a business. Now, that being said, you do have to accrue experience, or what we call on-the-job training, and our classroom. There's a lot of different methods, and they all require different extensive classroom training. Here at the Ocean Core program is 7.5 months, and that meets all of our requirements for the classroom training portion. So our students, they go out, they start working, and it's just a matter of a few months before they start getting certified.
So in that 7 months, they learn every type of NDT testing?
For the basic 6 methods. So that's going to be visual, penetrant testing or liquid penetrant, magnetic particle, eddy current or electromagnetic testing, ultrasonics, as well as radiography.
I don't know if you guys can see, there's a little line right there. Another start stop, probably something we want to address just right there. So again, anytime we're looking for indications, we're looking for something that stands out. We can see the profile, we know what that is. That's kind of an isolated indication by itself. That's something, as you know, an inspector, anytime you're looking at something, your eyes are going to be drawn to that detail. A detail that this particular method is able to find, whereas we really couldn't do that when we were outside using the dry powder method.
So trying to put it into layman's terms, or welders' terms, I guess you should say. So like, say if one person knows like one process, so putting that in perspective with NDT, what type of NDT testing would they possibly know?
And that's kind of the beauty of it. You do not have to know all 6 methods. So there's a lot of pipeline welders, for example, and they are very, very good pipeline welders. Now, they generally are only working in 1 or 2 positions when they do that. So that is a very specific practice. Now, just the same way welders have to become qualified, right? They show up to a job site to do their welder's qual, they pass all their tests, bend test, x-ray, whatever, and then they can go and do that particular method for that employer. Definitely correlates to us, just instead of, different welding processes, they're different NDT methods.
So I ran my root pass, then we went and did some magnet particle testing on it. We came back with a couple of spots that I know my hot pass is gonna fix. However, keep in mind, I am making errors on purpose because I want those to show up in those tests. Now, before I started videoing, I went and ground down what I call wagon tracks. So that would be our root pass here. Then those edges, I like to grind down because that's where you're gonna trap slag at. So ground that down, and now I'm gonna run my hot pass. Hopefully that hot pass, if I have any issues with my root pass, that would burn in a little bit nicer to make my root more sound. So, little recap. When I did my root, we did
dry powder that was visible, and then we took it into our room and did a fluorescent test.
Yep. And now we're gonna do what variation?
This is also a wet method, just like the fluorescent was, but it is going to be visible. Now, the big difference here is this is a 2-part system. We put a white contrast paint down, and then we use a black colored iron shaving that's in an oil bath, basically. Now, really the whole difference, well, why would I use one versus the other? For the visible method, so comparing this to like the red powder, this is going to be much more sensitive, just the way we compared the fluorescent to the red previously. Now, what makes one more sensitive than the other is really it comes down to the size of the shavings. The dry powder is roughly about really 10 times as large as these wet methods are. Now with the fluorescent, we get the aid of that fluorescent light that jumps off to us. But this is about as good as you're gonna get without having to go into a darkened area.
Undercut.
Not too bad.
Good indication underfill. Especially right there with that undercut.
Yeah.
That very dark spot.
Yeah, it's really just pulling there.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay.
We do have advanced services as well, or advanced techniques. And so we have our basics, and then we can go from there. So the most common one is ultrasonics. Ultrasonics, we start off with just a very, very base level, what we call just a straight beam and a shear wave examination. And that's, shear wave is pretty much what's commonly used for weld examination. All right, so what we have is a standard conventional ultrasonic testing flaw detector, if you want to call it that. What we'll be doing today is we will be inspecting this with a 60-degree angle, and just a very, very basic understanding. We are just sending sound and bouncing it through this pipe. It travels at a consistent angle until we strike something, and really what we're going to be seeing here is a response of whatever our sound wave strikes. Now this is similar in the sense that you can hear people's voices speak when they're in the room with you, and depending if they're around the corner or not in a direct line of sight, it's harder to hear.
So this is our first indicator. You can see the reflection that it's given us as it's bouncing back. So this would be the bottom of the material.
That green line, yep.
Green line. Red line would be top, and then bottom again. So as you can see, it's definitely towards our roots because it's closer to that bottom. Maybe in between hot pass and
yeah, you know, if you look at the bottom where there's a downward arrow, it'll actually tell you exactly how deep that spike is.
So it's 0.290 deep, and we're what?
0.4?
0.4 on material thickness. So yeah, definitely towards the bottom of that material for sure.
We can go further than that though. We can have phased array, which is just built off of those fundamentals, but it is definitely a more informative inspection. We have time of flight diffraction. That's another one that can be used in addition to that. And what we're doing is we're giving ourselves more information. And ultimately from a welder standpoint, it makes the calls much more accurate. So it's all as close to an X-ray as we're gonna get. And speaking of X-ray, you know, the dreaded X-ray crew that shows up.
All right, so as you can see, I'm behind the good old rope here. They're getting ready to shoot my X-ray, so I guess let's watch them do that. So my X-ray had a 2-minute shot time, so they started it, and now we've got to wait that 2 minutes before the film's fully developed.
So we made our first exposure. As we approach the camera, Seth here is going to survey the camera, ensuring that the radiation area is safe to come back into. We made our first exposure 1 to 2. We're going to move on to 2 to 3. Last shot exposure's been made. Now we want to take it into the dark room and develop our film.
All right, let's go.
And then here's where you want to grade. So
Okay.
now depending on the code, right in here you can see there's slag indications.
Yep.
The accumulation across that section right there, there's really not a whole lot of codes out there that can let you have that. You can see right here, that's some contour, maybe a little bit of suck back.
Okay.
That is clearly suck back right there.
Yep.
So, and the way you would grade that is you dense out the base metal.
Okay.
Then you would dense out that indication. And if that indication is darker than the base metal, it's
Yeah, no
going to be
problem.
a reject. Yeah.
Okay. So I hope you learned something today. Maybe you learned a non-destructive testing method you've never even heard of. I know a couple of the methods I haven't actually been able to see in person, so I was learning a little bit today as well. If you have any more questions, you can drop them down below in the comments section. I hope you learned something today, and we'll see you in the next video.